So in this video I'm going to be completely remodeling my old bathroom. The only issue is I don't really have any experience besides a few other DIY projects I've done before. I wanted to keep this entire renovation under €500, but as you'll see later, that didn't exactly go to plan. So here's the bathroom as it is. The tiles are going to be replaced themselves. Same with the paneling on this bath. There's a wooden section here that'll just need to be repainted and caulked over, as well as I'm gonna try to keep the sink, the toilet and the bath itself. So the first thing I did was I took off the old bath panel just to see if there was any water damage or any other issues underneath the bath. Alright, so I just took the panel out of the bath and there doesn't seem to be any real water damage. It's just usual cobwebs and stuff like that. So now that that bath panel is out, it gives me a little bit of room to figure out what I'm going to do next. I know that I don't have to replace any of the floor below because there's not really any crazy water damage or anything like that. I've been looking online at various bath panels and there's no way I'm paying over €180 for what is essentially just a bit of MDF with a few fucking shaker panels put onto it, you know? So the first job I really took on was to remove all these old tiles. This probably took longer than any of the other tasks, as the person who put them down before, they really knew what they were doing because these were stuck on properly. Only one of these walls was drywall, unfortunately. The rest was solid concrete, so I couldn't just cut through them and put up new plasterboard, unfortunately. Alright, day 2. I've gotten all the tiles off the wall now. Luckily this is actually solid concrete, and so I don't have to worry about chipboard that much on this side. I saw another video on YouTube by a guy from Northern Ireland. I'll put his link down in the description. But he suggested to wet the adhesive before chipping it off, and this honestly worked like a charm. I couldn't get all of it off, but I got enough off that I was able to work with it. Okay, so I got all the walls primed now. I used some of this 981 that a friend recommended to me. It's a weird primer because it's completely clear, although it's blue. So here I am tiling the walls. I don't have a lot of footage of this, unfortunately, but it was difficult on the account of how uneven the walls were. If I could redo this again, I would spend a lot more time trying to get all this plaster and adhesive off the wall, but I had already spent a few days doing it already. As you'll see later though, rushing through this really screwed me over and I had to redo it eventually. Well, second day, started on the second wall and, well, I fucked up. I was going to do all the tiles around the window first. For whatever reason, I was going to try to stick up the edge banding, and I realized I've after making all them straight instead of, you know, staggered like the other wall. One step forward, 3 steps back. Well, messed up again. Yeah, putting these tiles straight has not done me any favors. The lines are completely uneven. It looks like a fucking wave going across the entire wall. I don't really know what to do here. I'm tempted to just not bother grouting them and just taking a hammer to the entire thing and starting again. Ironically enough, the 2 other walls on either side aren't that bad. Besides maybe there's tiny little tiles in the corner that I didn't really account for. I'll have to have a sleep on it because this is just driving me nuts now. But this is the process of figuring out things as you go, I guess. Okay, that actually didn't take too long. Maybe just over an hour. There's a lot of adhesive that's still stuck to the wall. I'd say it was just that it didn't dry properly even after, you know, a day or so of sitting there. It could be that I just didn't put it on properly, I don't know. But they came off quite easily. I'm going to presume that it was just because I hadn't grouted it yet and because the adhesive was still kind of wet. But that's a bit, that's not the best side. It's the best, it's a bit disconcerting. I just presume that it's based on the fact that
the adhesive was still wet and not because I put it on wrong, but it could have been either at this stage.
So I actually completely forgot to film this, but I grouted all the tiles on the wall and any little gaps, and yeah, so this is the finished result. I still need to clean them off a little bit, just remove some of the residue and everything like that, and clean up all the windowsills and all the little edges and stuff like that. But besides that, yeah, we're pretty much done with the tiling, thank God. It took a while, but after this is all sorted, I'll seal the bath and then get ready to start doing the painting. I'll need to take this cabinet off, maybe just fill in some of the gaps there, prime them, and then start painting again. Home stretch. So most of the content that I have on my Instagram page is related to furniture restoration. So I knew from experience that I'd be able to easily make a bath panel out of a sheet of MDF. These bath panels nowadays are extremely expensive, especially for a shaker style one like this. So after patching it with some wood filler, I primed it in order to avoid any water damage in the future, and then I painted it the same colours as the walls. You can lie, you can try, but you'd like to leave this feeling. We got to breathe, to dig, to leave the life we are dreaming. It could go wrong. Alright, so I just gave the tiles another clean down. I was going to take this cabinet off the wall, but somebody stripped the screw trying to take it off. Definitely wasn't me, but someone did that. And once the sanding's done as well, I just need to take some of these small little pieces off the wall. Everything besides the cabinets are coming off. So I have this like weird little goofy octopus looking thing that's supposed to be a towel holder. So just to explain my process for painting, I do the cutting first. Basically just try to cut it as close to the walls as possible without quite hitting the edge. Brush probably isn't wet enough, to be honest, but yeah, I do all my cutting first, then go on to the process of just rolling up, like, you know, everything after it. So this color is Muscle by Color Trends. I've used Color Trends before. I much prefer to Dulex or Johnstone anyway, but the paint for me today was just very difficult to work with. I don't know if it was because of the sheen or whatever that it was, but I wasn't getting very good coverage. I'd love to make a video in the future comparing the various brands of paint, so if you'd like to see that in the future, let me know. It'd be interesting to see what the best paint brand is at the various different price categories. So I completely forgot yet again to hit record, but just did the first line of the siliconing. I filled the bathtub as some people suggested, just to give it, you know, a little bit of extra girth, so it's not like it doesn't, you know, get pulled back from the wall as soon as someone steps in it. Yeah, looks decent enough, to be honest. There's a few little gaps between the silicone and the grout itself, but I'll fill that in afterwards, as well as the corner itself. But yeah, just going to do the rest of these lines and come back to it afterwards. So here's a good little tip for anyone who doesn't know. So I got a bit of paint on the side of the grout line, so I'm just going to go over with a grout pen that you can get in any big box store and just cover it up a little less obvious. This grout off as well. So originally I was going to rip up these tiles and put real ones down, but after coming back from holidays, the thoughts of demoing and leveling this floor again just didn't appeal to me. So here she is now, Betty Crockett with a rolling pin. I heard someone say online that this is good for flattening out the peel and stick tiles, but just watching it back, it looks completely ridiculous. So what I'm doing right now is I'm marking out on a piece of cardboard that's the same size as the tile that I need.
just the little edges around the trim. And now that I have this cut out with a knife, and I actually find it easier sometimes to use the scissors for these things, you'll see that it fits like a glove.
So here's the tiles afterwards. I think it complements it really well, especially with the wall colour. So I have these two pieces of scrap oak that I got from an old butcher's block countertop for my kitchen. So I have these command strips as well. So where I want to put them is right above the toilet, which is drywall. You've got to be kidding me. Oh my god. Look what I'm after doing. After ripping the paint straight off the wall, for fuck's sake. So I'm using the multi-tool here, and I don't know, like it seems like there's just so many random pipes and stuff behind this wall, which makes sense because of the toilet, but I just can't really get anything, like, you know, any space down. Alright, so I originally tried sticking this in with command strips and it didn't work. However, what I did use was grip fill, which is pretty decent mounting adhesive. Most people use this for stuff like mirrors, for example, but they don't use it for heavy oak shelves. I stuck this on last night and it's holding up. There was a lot of, how do you say, squirting out from the sides. So what I'm going to do now is just try to sand it a little bit, prime it, caulk it, and then recut the edges of it. Alright, here's it after painting. Cut line is never great, but what can you do? It's only a shelf, and it's plenty strong enough to hang a little plant and some candles, and I'll probably put some, like just some, I don't know, fancy washing or something on it. Maybe a painting. I don't know. Need some ideas. The next thing to do was to paint the cabinets. Now the surface is made out of melanin or whatever this material is, so the paint, it wouldn't really stick to it, so I needed to prime it first. I wanted to keep the gold trim pieces on the face, which I think turned out really well in the end. I painted it a colour that I had left over from another project, which I think goes really well, especially with the oak pieces on the shelf and the trim itself. And it contrasts the blue paint very well as well. So the last thing I needed to do was to just clean the place up and add a few little extra touches to the room.
We got to breathe, to dig, to leave the life we are dreaming. It could go wrong, but I'm just a nest. You must be lonely, but you could be crazy if you keep looking down. Don't you cry no more, no more.
So after I'm finished up with the bathroom, I'm very happy with the way it turned out. I think the tiles look really good with the floor, and I really like the way the bath panels turned out. I'll put the full price breakdown on the screen somewhere here, or maybe over here, depending on how much space I have. It came a little bit over budget, but roughly what I was planning on spending on it in the first place. There was a few costs that were just a bit odd, like I wasn't expecting the peel and stick floor tiles to cost as much as they did. It would cost about €20 per box, which was only really about 0.9 of a square meter, like just under 1 square meter. Considering the subway tiles, or the metro tiles as they call them in the UK, they cost about €9 a square meter, so it actually cost me less to buy the real tiles than it did for the peel and stick ones. Now you could argue that you're paying for the convenience, but to be honest, it would have been a lot cheaper for me to completely demo up the tiles, put down a new membrane, re-level the floor, and then put down real tiles that will last a lot longer than peel and stick ones. I suppose this is the first time I've done this, so there is a bit of a learning curve, but I know exactly what I'll do in the future. I feel like any mistake I could have made, I did make, especially when tiling the backsplash itself. Overall, I'm happy with the way it looks, and it's a million times nicer than it was before, and it was a pretty cheap renovation as well.